Alexco is, I think, in that final stage, if you will, of transitioning from a silver developer, explorer developer to a developer producer as we advance the Kino Hill Silver District back into production with a development decision pending and plans to be producing silver again in the third quarter of this year. I'll obviously be making some forward-looking statements. I'm sure you've seen this a number of times already. So, Alexco is, really, I think, a unique company in the silver space. There are literally less than this many companies in the industry that are really primary silver producers that have more than 50% of their revenue that comes from silver. So Alexco offers the highest leverage, the highest beta to the silver price of anyone in the industry. We've got, I think, a great project, a very high-grade district, and we're in the Yukon. Obviously, jurisdictional risk is a real issue. Again, we're not only in Canada, we're in the Yukon. We've got what we call, I think, a right-sized project for Alexco. We've designed this mine plan and this project for low capital on the front end and high margin, while at the same time, we're maintaining a lot of optionality and a lot of scalability with additional resources. I think obviously exploration has been the backbone to this company over a number of years, and we now have 100 million ounces, just over 100 million ounces of silver in all categories, and within that 100 million ounces is a 30 million ounce reserve within the mine plan. Again, we've talked about our leverage to the price of silver. We'll look a little bit later on that. And we've got a great environmental business. We don't talk about it a lot, but Alexco Environmental Group, it's a subsidiary business that we own 100% of. It has up to 90 employees now. It's going to do $30 million in revenue in 2019. And it's a great business for a junior company. Maybe I'll just give you an update on what we've accomplished in 2019. Again, we did release a pre-feasibility study in March of 2019, filed that in May. I'll talk about that plan, but that's an 8-year mine plan within the district that includes four separate deposits. We've been systematically de-risking this project last summer and into the third quarter. There were a number of surface infrastructure projects that we completed at the Birmingham deposit. Again, just kind of a phased, systematic approach, kind of advancing towards that final decision. Certainly, permitting has been a lot of questions on the process of permitting with our Birmingham deposit. I think we've made some significant progress lately. We were granted a quartz mining license in December of this year, so that fully authorizes all mining to proceed in the district with all deposits. We still do need to finalize a water use license, and that's in the final stages as well. So it's not only adding Birmingham into the water license, it's also renewing all of the deposits within that district. And when we're finished with this, we'll have a 15-year water license within the district. Again, I had a pretty successful exploration program last year. We'll be talking about some results, obviously. Drilled just over 8,000 meters of diamond drilling 2019. And we tried some RAB drilling this year, about 3,000 meters of RAB drilling, which is, I think, a new tool that the exploration team want to continue on. And, it's a much more cost-effective tool to gather some valuable information. I think we've demonstrated the opportunity at Birmingham with some very high-grade intercepts at this Birmingham deep target. We'll certainly take a look at that. We announced a new discovery. It's called the Inca Vein. This is a new high-grade vein on Galena Hill that we'll talk a little bit about. And then more on the environmental side, for some of you that may not be familiar with Alexco, one of our responsibilities is we have a contract with the government of Canada to clean up all the historic liabilities of this district from several decades. So that's made a lot of progress in 2019. We're just finishing up the environmental assessment process with that, the YESAB process. So we'll start ramping up some construction in the next year or two, so that's pretty exciting. And I do want to just add, we do have an excellent safety environmental record. I mean, even though we haven't been in production for the last few years, there's been a lot of activity at site. We've done over 1 kilometer of underground development, and during this time, again, maintained an excellent safety record over 6 years now without a lost time accident. So this is the Kino Hill Silver District. I know Greg gave you a similar, I guess, overview. Very large, well-known district. Our focus is over on the eastern side of this district, where we have the 4 deposits within this mine plan. Again, the Kino Hill Silver District, for being a northern project, a northern mine, we're very fortunate to have the infrastructure that we have in place. An all-season, year-round road goes right through the district. We're 30 minutes away from a year-round airport, deep water port access in Skagway, and we're connected to the Yukon power grid. So again, for a northern operation, a lot of advantage to where we're at. Again, on the resource base, just over 80 million ounces now of indicated and inferred resources. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of these 4 deposits that are in the mine plan. But it's really the Flamen Moth and Birmingham deposits that are really the vast majority of the mine plan going forward. So this is what our production profile looks like. Again, it's an 8-year project the way it stands right now. Just about 1.2 million tons of over 800 grams silver, with about 6 to 7% base metal credits that go along with that. The strategy here, and we'll look at the schedule in a bit, but the strategy is there's about 40,000 tons of remnant mining salvage tons at Kino. We'll go in there early on, mine out those tons, and that's what we'll recommission the mill with. But again, really, it's Birmingham and Flame together. So I mean, think of this as Flamen Moth is kind of the tonnage of the mine plan, and Birmingham is the grade sweetener. And when you put these two deposits together, you've got a 400 ton per day mine production profile that in the first couple of years is over 1,000 gram per ton head grade. Again, what we like to describe this again, like I said, is kind of a right size project. About $24 million of capital to finish all the underground development. There's some additional projects in the mill that we're just starting to complete right now. And then there's some working capital in there. So again, a fairly low capital on the front end, but over a 70% rate of return. So again, a lot of work has been done, and that's why the schedule is fairly quick to be back in production. We've put over 1 kilometer of underground development in these 2 new deposits in the last couple of years. This is what the silver production profile looks like. Again, these are silver ounces. These aren't silver equivalents. I know a lot of people talk about equivalents, but this is a primary silver production profile. So, once we're up and scaled up, we'll be over 4 million ounces per year. Again, of silver on an annual basis, and I would say that by any measure that's a very meaningful production for a single silver operation. Certainly, our focus, once this thing is back into production, is to look after the back end of that plan. Bring in some of these additional resources, and so we don't have that tail off on those later years. We do have a significant amount of base metal credits that are associated with this plan. 10 to 12 million pounds each per year of lead and zinc. But again, by any measure, this is a primary producer with over 75% of our revenue will be coming from silver alone. This is what the cost profile looks like. Again, we are not the cheapest developer producer out there, but we are in the north, and what comes with that is some higher costs. But I think we've always been pretty transparent on how we kind of present our cost basis. This is an all-in sustaining cost, so you've got about $10 per ounce with your direct costs and your smelter, the TCRCs. That market, those smelter charges have been moving in the last several months. Unfortunately, not in the right direction for us. But we do get a significant byproduct credit, about $5 an ounce on the lead and zinc credit. We do have a stream on this project. Wheaton Precious Metals has a has a variable production stream where they're entitled to 25% of the silver ounces in exchange for a variable payment to us. So that accounts for about $2.50 per ounce. And then because we're a single asset company, we put all of our site G&A, all of our corporate G&A in our exploration. That's all built into this cost profile. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're an $11.50 to $12 all-in sustaining cost producer. So take a little more look at the deposits, Flamen Moth in Birmingham. So this is a long section of Flamen Moth. As I said, we put over 400 meters of development into Flamen Moth already. So this is about a 3.7 by 4.2 meter primary decline. So all of that infrastructure is in place. So once we fire back up, resume activity, it's a pretty quick kind of ramp up period because of the development that's already been completed. Flamen Moth is fairly thick vein, compared to most of the historic veins in the district. The average kind of vein width at Flamen Moth is about 4.5 to 5 meters. Several areas were up to 7 to 8 meters in thickness. Mining method here is about 65% cut and fill, and about 35% or so long hole. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the portal that was established several years ago. On the bottom, we'll certainly talk about Birmingham as well. It's the same story, if you will, is the scalability, but less than 50% of the resource at Flamen Moth is currently in the mine plan. You can see the dark red, that's the reserve, along with all of the development, and all of that kind of pinkish color around that is all indicated resource. So that's certainly the focus when we're back into production, is to as we gain experience and drive our operating costs down, look to unlock some of those indicated resource back into the mine plan. Similar view at Birmingham. This is the long section look at Birmingham. Again, this is the grade sweetener. So this is a narrower vein type deposit, 3 to 4 type meters of width here. So the mining method here will be more geared towards cut and fill. About 75% of this is cut and fill, with the rest being long hole. Again, you can see the portal on the right-hand side. That was some of the work that I talked about earlier in terms of kind of de-risking. So we've upgraded that portal from an exploration portal now to a long-term production profile. Again, similar, only just over 30% of the resource at Birmingham is currently in the mine plan, and that is by design. Like I said, to really minimize the upfront capital, maximize the return. And then look to bring in some of those additional resources once we're back into production. We'll talk a little bit about this Birmingham deep target. I just kind of want to show you in relation to the current mine plan and resources where that deep target would be sitting. Again, just a summary again of the additional resources that are not in this current plan. That again provides that kind of optionality and scalability. Once we were back into production. In terms of metallurgy, this is a very valuable, premium concentrate. The grade of this concentrate, 50 to 55% lead with over 16,000 gram per ton silver. So there is not another concentrate, certainly that we're aware of on the market today with those types of silver grades. So there's a lot of interest by the off-takers. The smelters had a lot of discussions. We've kind of, I think, whittled that down to a couple of offtake companies, and then we'll be finalizing those agreements in the next couple of months here. So, again, this gets trucked to the port of Skagway, and then from there you're on deep water, and you can really go anywhere in the world. So this is what our production kind of schedule looks like right now. Again, we've kind of broken this up into a phased approach. We're still in this phase 1 and just starting into what we would call phase 2. So, again, completed a number of projects this summer. Did receive our quartz mining license in December of this year. But at the end of the day, we are not going to, make a final production decision until we have that water license in hand, which we still believe, can be completed in this quarter, the first quarter of this year, because, I'm sure you can appreciate we have to know what all the final terms and conditions of that renewed license are in order to go back underground. So again, we do anticipate that in the, sometime at the end of the first quarter. We are starting to, I guess, ramp up at site with some key hires. Just hired a VP of operations, Wayne Zagarlik. So very happy to have Wayne aboard. So I think you can see that we are starting to head into that direction without a final decision yet. So again, the strategy: go into Kino, salvage those tons, and then commission this mill with Flamen Moth and Kino together. Take the mining crews and go to Birmingham, finish up the development. I mean, right now, I don't think I pointed it out on that previous slide. The end of that decline at Birmingham, we're standing back about 75 meters from the ore at Birmingham. So it's a pretty quick, period to finish up the development there. So again, assuming a positive decision here in the shorter term, the schedule would have us producing concentrate, shipping concentrate in the third quarter of 2020. Turn the attention a little bit to exploration. Again, I think there's been a lot of value, I guess, into this company off the back of the drill bit and the geologists. When we came into this district in 2002, 2006, 2007, there were no modern 43-101 resources on the books. So we've systematically every year we've always been committed to exploration, and I think you can see the return on that effort, if you will. Now over 80 million ounces of silver in indicated and inferred. We'll talk a bit on what our exploration plans are for 2020. We won't be updating resources right now for the work that we did in 2019. So for now, that's the kind of the current resource that you see. So this Birmingham deep target, this is something we talked about last year in terms of kind of a geological model that our exploration team was quite, I guess, quite adamant that we follow up with, and that's really starting to look at the mineralization at more the very top end of the favorable quartzite that you see at Hector Calumet. So again, you see where the current reserves and resources are at Birmingham. And I just point out some of these intercepts that we released last year. Over 8 meters true width of 1,400 grams silver. A meter of about 2,500 grams. So we're going to follow this up for sure this year. But this is obviously a longer term target. It's not going to change our plans in the short term in terms of the mine plan and getting underground. These are fairly deep holes. These are 650 kind of meter holes. So we'll continue to drill some of this from surface. It'll be very wide space, but once we're underground, it will be much closer to this thing. It'll be much more cost effective to drill this from underground. This Inca Vein. So again, this was a discovery that was made this last year, and this really is a direct result of some of the airborne geophysics that we completed in 2018, as well as I think just a continued better understanding of the structural controls of the mineralization in this district. Again, you can see some of the intercepts here. Over 5 meters of 600 gram, 7 meters of over 800 grams. So the plan this year is to put about another 1,500 meters from surface, obviously, into this discovery. It's still going to be very wide spaced. I don't think we'll come out with a resource in 2020 on this. I like it in terms of its location. It's on Galena Hill, and it's about 200 meters off the haul road that we just completed. So we now have a haul road that goes from Birmingham all the way to the mill, and it's accessed off of this target. So again, we'll certainly be following up with this new discovery at Inca. Just maybe a little bit back more to that deep target, this is a kind of a more simplistic cutaway to just again reinforce why we are pretty excited about this Birmingham deep target. I think as Greg mentioned, there's been over 200 million ounces of silver that have been produced out of this district over decades. The single largest of that was Hector Calumet, about 98 million ounces. And this deep target is just getting into the upper elevations of that most favorable basaltic quartzite. So you can see again the location of Hector Calumet and the stratigraphy and where this Birmingham deep target is. So in terms of exploration plans for 2020, we've budgeted about a $3.5 million program for this year. That'll be broken up into a number of, I think, different separate programs. We'll put over 3,000 meters into some additional diamond drilling at that Birmingham deep target, so that'll give us another at least half a dozen holes into that area. We're obviously going to follow up with that Inca Vein discovery, another 1,500 meters or so there. And then, we're always going to continue on the generative, program. When you look at, a discovery like Birmingham that we made probably, 4 to 5 years ago, by the time you drill these targets off, permit them, get them into mine plan, that's a 4 to 5 year process. So even though we have an 8-year project right now, we do need to be always looking ahead on where that next target comes from. We will complete the rest of our claim block in terms of an additional airborne geophysics. Again, it's already proved very, very valuable in terms of the discovery at Inca. So we've got some areas in the claims that we want to fill some holes in, so we'll do that. Again, like I said, the exploration guys have been pretty excited about using the RAB drilling to more of a generative type of tool that's much cheaper. See my lights flashing up here, so we'll wrap it up here with the environmental business. Again, it's a great business. We probably don't get a lot of credit for it. We don't talk about it enough, but it's a company that's going to do about $30 million in revenue in 2019. We're putting all that revenue, all those margins right back into continuing to grow that business. I did talk a little bit about leverage to silver. So really the message here is if you're bullish on silver, you certainly want exposure to a primary silver producer. You can see all these great companies listed here, but at the end of the day, like I said, there are very few primary silver producers left in this industry, and we are by far the highest margin in terms of our relationship to silver price and share price appreciation. And share structure, capital position at about $12 million at the end of the third quarter. That's obviously going to be a little less now. We haven't released our year-end financials yet. So other than that, we do have a term sheet that we can draw down on when we make a production decision, and about 120 million shares out. So again, for a company that's about ready to go back in production, that's a pretty tight capital structure. So thank you.